folks, we are going to dive into some Martial Powers Monday lunch here in a moment. Give me a second here to throw up my normal bundle window dressing thing here as I check my signal. We'll dive into the fray here and look at a new Martial Power kit that we build out for battlefield control of fighters. Just let me take a chance here to check my signal. Sounds like it's coming through, but it looks like I've glitched out on my OBS chat window here. So I'm going to pop out my chat here in YouTube. Hide my face for a moment here and push this down into the space. That looks pretty good. And I'm going to, let's see, grab this up. I just want to post on Twitter that I'm live. And then we will be getting into this here in a moment. And while we do that, hey, if you follow me on Twitter, I've just posted that I'm live on Twitter at Phil Kearney as my channel below. And let me get rid of Twitter. I'm just going to blast channels on Discord real fast and just give you my front spiel, and then we'll dive into today's design builds. My name is Phil. Hey, I create RPG supplement PDFs. I mostly invest my energy in 5th edition, publishing on DMsGuild. There is a slew of links in the description down below to work I've previously published that you can click into to check out all the artwork that I've produced, my page layouts, all the design work is mine as well. Whenever I create a book, it's always 100% free preview, so you can click into any of those books. And if you look at the eye icon on mobile on the far right of the screen, or if you're on a desktop and you click into the product page on the left-hand side, you'll see the book cover, and then underneath that it says full preview. If you click on either full preview or the eye icon, it'll open up a PDF for you. You can read the entire document cover to cover. There's maybe about 150 some odd illustrations between the lot of them. And if you're a D&D enthusiast, certainly check them out. Hey, Hornetico, it's good to see you, my dude. And hold on, I'm just trying to see if I can... God, that text is tiny. Todd chat. My chat glitched out on my in my OBS, so I'm having to use the pop-out window, and by God, that text is tiny. So forgive me while I blind eye at stuff. But hey, the cover that we're looking here is of the bundle for the Color Mana Spell Point Variant Rules, which are also linked down below, which is a sister in spirit to the Martial Powers book that we've been developing. Hold on. I don't have my stuff set up the way it's supposed to be, so just give me a hot second here to grab that. There we go. Back to there. Back. I arrange all my icons, make sure all my shit's set up. I'll set a 20-minute timer, and we'll dive into this for today. So hold on, let me see. Beep, beep. 20-minute timer. Doop, doop. Rough start, guys. Don't mind me. 20 minutes on the block. Let's give ourselves an hour to play. So let's see. Beep, beep, beep. Discord out of the way. A like, subscribe, bell. Best way to help push my signal overall, and it's greatly appreciated. We are looking at Martial Powers, as we have for the past... how many episodes in deep are we now? 100, or where are we at? Episode 53. So we just passed a year of doing this, guys. We've been building Martial Powers for slow cooking, as I like to call it, for the past year. That's insane. But we're just getting started because the master system overall works pretty well. Now we've been diving into specifics, and then beyond this, we're going to be looking. We're going to be developing specific sample builds to put in the book as appendices for like inspirations for your character build. To that note, I want to give a shout out to NAC, one of my playtesters, and one of the guys I sharpen my knives with online at Durzazad's channel, and Indestructible Boys Designosphere on Discord. He's got really good mechanical chops himself. And he had pointed out it's a shame that this system is only being allowed for use by fighters, barbarians, and rogues as a subclass, while other classes like the paladin, ranger, and monk, all of the subclasses get access to that. And the reason that is because martial powers is designed as an alternate alternate spell list, essentially, for classes that already have a mana system built into them, such as the monk's key points, like way of the four elements. You can spend your key to cast spells, so too can you learn and channel martial powers. The barbarian, the ranger and the paladin, they themselves have the half casting structure that this system is just simply swapping out the spells that they learn and creating it based off of the universal spell point mana system that I use, that's linked down below in the Color Mana Spell Point Variant Rule bundle. So you can look through all those books for free, and then you can look at this content. It's linked down below to my Patreon. It's a read-only document because it's a work in progress playtest document that you can use from a campaign level 1 to 20. We're currently just about to hit 18th level in my campaign, where we've got an arcane trickster, a ranger, and also allowing use of this for our druid while she's wild shape. So we've got a lot of people at high level that are picking at this thing, and each week we can come back and we find little ways to optimize and build it out a bit. But to that point, NAC's point was very poignant in that the rogue, the fighter, and barbarian only get access to it if you're using the specific archetype that we built for this, but you don't have to. The archetypes that we have here are really lean into the mechanical design of what powers can do as ways to flavor your barbarian, your fighter, and your rogue. But just like our arcane trickster and eldritch knight, if you wanted to say play a cavalier, a fighter cavalier, and but you like martial powers, you could take the cavalier subclass and just get the power progression of the known powers, the mana system that you get for the class that you're playing, and the power die progression, and just not get any of the class features. So you get the mana and you get the powers, you just don't get any of the cool subclass kit optimization options, which are really compelling. So today what we're doing is we are making sure that we are building another kit using the fighter, the martial champion archetype that we built that's going to be in the book, calling it the Provoking Punter. So we have a 20 level build here, and we have a power kit statted out from level. Actually, it's not all 20 levels. It shows the progression here, but actually, where we ended up stopping on the class was level 18 when you get your last archetype feature. Technically, there's 2 more levels you could go to further boost what you can do with the fighter through the feat and the extra attack. But you only gain 1 extra power in the end, so it would be like, I don't know, plus 1 more. So like you could just like pick a feat. Like you have shitloads of feats that you could opt into if you wanted to, or you could like pick up I don't know, maybe I don't know, precise attack, exploit, precise attack, which allows you to if you we'll walk through the fighter and then we'll walk through all the class stuff, right? So we have an agenda here and I'm going to try to stay to it. First off, we're going to walk through what this archetype does specifically. We've had 50 some odd episodes of talking about structures in general, but this is where we're sitting with the fighter currently. It's pretty freaking fun. And then we'll look at all the different powers that we chose for this 18th level fighter and see how that all curves together and what you can build with it. Obviously, it's a very high-end build. Most people don't play beyond 11th level. So it's not necessarily a practical build, but it shows off some of the cool stuff you can do if you, like me, play above 11th level half of your time in game. I run through a 20 level campaign in about 250 to maybe 300 hours of gameplay. So if I'm playing a weekly game for about 4 hours per Saturday, I can cycle through a 1 to 20 campaign in about 14 months-ish, maybe 15. If we have a lot of sick time and vacations getting in the way. But we can cycle through them pretty quickly. If I have a shorter time, obviously it takes a longer duration. But typically it curves out to about 250 to 300 hours, and this is my 4th campaign. That at 18th level, I think we're like at 265 hours so far. So far so good. This book is meant to be used at all levels of play, and I regularly test content in the 4th tier. So if you're wondering about its viability at the upper end of the game, it's build one yourself and run through it. It's cool. It doesn't break any curves of anything else that's already inside of the game, and in a lot of ways it's a lot more versatile, but it's more conservative overall because the numbers don't spike beyond like what a paladin can smite or what a bard can provide as an inspiration bonus, and everything just stays inside of that damage curve and that stat bounded accuracy curve that they attempt to establish with D&D content. So it's system safe, but taking things from a very different direction. So enough pontification. There's never enough pontification. But let's look at this. So a fighter. The way that we design it, it's assumed that you're starting at 1st level. However, if you don't assume that you're using martial powers, you could delay start until 3rd level when the class kit starts, and you'd start with 4 powers of 1st rank rolling a d6. But I assume you start at 1st level with this, and if archetypes are delayed till 3rd level, then basically you're making an agreement with your DM at 1st level saying, I am going to build into martial powers, and then you can just start building off of it immediately. Rangers, paladins, and monks do start at 1st level, just like an artificer does, just like one D&D is directing us towards. So I was really happy to intuit that before they released that content. It lets me know that I've got my finger on the pulse in the right place. So martial powers, a fighter is a martial point progression. As a long rest, you gain 1 point per level, capping out at 20. But there's a lot of stuff that a fighter, the quintessential martial character, gets to curve into using a lot more power than the martial points would imply. So let's explore that space. So the language here is when you gain 1st level as a fighter, you can choose the channeling class feature and commit to the martial champion as your fighter archetype, gaining the following features. Starting at 1st level, you gain the channeling class feature. Strength, dexterity, or intelligence is your channeling ability score. Choose when you select this archetype. Your channeling DC is 8 plus proficiency bonus plus your ability modifier, and you gain a pool of martial points called mana, and you can learn martial powers. Your mana is at 1st level, you gain 1 point of mana, 1 martial point called mana. You gain 1 additional point every level with a maximum 20 at 20th level, and you regain all spent mana when you finish a long rest. Martial powers, beginning at 1st level, you gain access. You also gain 2 powers from the list of martial powers listed in section 3 down below. You gain additional powers as you gain levels up to your maximum channeling level as listed in the martial powers progression table above. When you gain a new level, you can replace any number of known powers with new ones. So you can completely rekit every level, which is, if you're going to have learned casting, that you set what spells you have access to, you should be able to swap them all out at level, just like a prepared caster can swap out all their spells every time they wake up and relearn all their spells. Whenever you gain a level, you can rebuild your entire kit. So now that's the basics of channeling, and there's a lot of content down below about how those mechanics work that we walked through. I think it was like around episode 10, maybe 8. We walked just through the raw mechanics of it, and of course this is a playtest document read-only that you can find through my Patreon down below. So let's look at the actual class features. And again, to NAC's point, if you wanted to have this on your Barbarian Berserker or your Arcane Archer, your Gunslinger, your Psi Knife, whatever, you could certainly take the mana, the powers known, and the power die and just build with those. But these class features, again, are designed to kit into what your class can do. So looking at these, specifically, Channeled Vitality. Actually, let's let's have a little bit more fun with this than we are currently. Let's go to D&D Beyond. Let's just actually pull open the fighter real quick so we can look at where we're going. I didn't bother with hit points and stuff like that. I'm just going with like the core variables. We use a standard array, and over the course of 20 levels, this is the stat line that you would end up with. +4 to human for strength. Gives you with your proficiency in strength saving throws is a +10. You also have proficiency in constitution for a +10. So your stat line is strength 18, dex 14, con 18, int wisdom both 12, and then charisma 10. Switch it up as you please to flavor. We have our core basic chassis for the fighter, including we went with the variant human, so we got the +1 on all of the basic stats, plus the free feat. So the feat we took was, of course, Great Weapon Master. We gained the fighting style, and second wind fighting style would probably be what, two-handed weapon. I think that's a fighting style. So looking at the fighter build progression here, beep, 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 beep. You can see along the things that you get here: action surge at second, martial archetype, second wind. So let's dip down here to it's great weapon fighting. Sorry, great weapon fighting is the. I'm not saving that yet. When you roll into on a damage die for an attack you make with a melee weapon that you are wielding with two hands, you re-roll the die and must use the new roll, even if the new roll is a 1 or 2. There you go. Okay, cool. So that's a class feature, or a fighting style. So, third level, Channeled Vitality. At third level, when you use the second wind, you can also regain a number of spent mana equal to the max rank of power gained as a fighter. So, second wind as a feature is you have a limited well of stamina that you can draw on to protect yourself from harm. On your turn, you can use a bonus action to regain hit points equal to 1d10 plus your fighter level. Once you use this feature, you must finish a short or long rest before you can use it again. And the way that Martial Powers is structured is that when you multi-class into a character, all of these classes, Barbarian, Fighter, Monk, Paladin, Ranger, and Rogue, they all stack, kind of like full casting stacks, that if you've got 20 levels combined between all of these 6 classes, at 20th level, you can channel up to 5 mana. You'll have you'll actually end up with more than 16 powers, so it actually rewards you for multi-classing by giving you more known powers, but you don't have all the cool class features that you would get by single classing all the way up to 18th level. Like if I went if I went, say, 9 levels of fighter and 11 levels of paladin, right? At 11 levels as a paladin, I'd have 11 known powers, and 9th level as a fighter, I'd have 10 known powers, so I'd have a total of 21 known powers. But I can't progress past 3rd rank powers known. Even though I can channel up to 5 mana, I wouldn't be able to learn any of the 4th rank powers. I'd be capped at 3rd rank, which a lot of these builds don't mind, but those high-end those high-end powers are pretty cool. And you also don't get the benefit of your higher-end class features from your archetypes or just the classes themselves. So there is disadvantage in multi-classing by watering down the potency of whatever classes you're multi-classing through, but you certainly end up with a lot more powers, which can make up for it. So we'll make a build that multi-classes in the future to see how you can optimize and abuse that stuff. But like a 20th level fighter would have 16 powers, while a 9-11 fighter paladin split would have 21. So significantly more powers, which honestly means a shitload more feats that they could learn. Because you can learn feats as power instead of powers. So there's a lot of advantage you can gain from that. The thing is designed to lean... People want to multi-class, so we built the thing to lean into using multi-classing while still putting those barriers on there. Like, so we see here for the language that was used in the document here is When you use Second Wind, you can also regain a number of spent mana equal to the max rank of power gained as a fighter. So if I take level 17 as a fighter, or in this build, 18th level, I've gained 5 ranks of power as a fighter. If I were to multi-class 9 and 11 as a fighter paladin, in both of those instances, I've only gained 3 ranks of power as a fighter, or 3 ranks of power as a paladin. Like, for instance, if we were to limit the paladin's aura of protection to equal the max rank of power that the paladin has gained, then even though you would gain aura of protection at 7th, or one D&D thinks you should get at 6th, sure. Either way, it would still only be it wouldn't be +4 and eventually +5 to your charisma bonus. It would only be +2 at this level. And if you capped your character at 11th level as a paladin, maybe you cap it at 9th as a paladin, go to 11th as a fighter so you can get the 3rd attack, would actually make more sense. But either way, it's still only 3rd, so your aura of protection wouldn't get better than a +3 bonus to your friends. It's better. Aura of protection is still severely broken. But this is something that you can do when you approach multi-classing from this reward penalty approach. Wizards could easily implement this sort of thing by just introducing that language into the game. Like a Paladin's Smite ability, you can deal a number of D8 damage equal to your maximum spell level gained as a Paladin. That would mean at 17th level, you could roll 5d8 damage instead of having a d8 plus, like 2d8 plus 1 for every level past the first one. Like, you can make it a lot easier, and you could curve out smite damage so it isn't as spiky and as Nova burst at the beginning. So there's means of just changing the language a little bit that shifts the focus of balance so that you can have these things actually all work together more smoothly. And we're attempting to reward you for staying inside of the martial classes. You can, if you were to use the color mana spell point variant rules that we have linked down below, which are designed to work with this in a multi-classing system, but martials and casting don't mix at all, unless you have a specific class that allows you to, like an Eldritch Knight or an Arcane Trickster, specifically designed to work together, but that allows them to optimize a little bit more and have more flexibility, so that's cool. But under normal circumstances, like, you could get a sorcerer, and a sorcerer contributes nothing to martial powers, just like a fighter doesn't contribute anything to full casting progression unless he's an Eldritch Knight, right? But a sorcerer does get a crap load of mana. So if you did multi-class, say, a Paladin Sorcerer using this system, you would end up with a crap ton of mana. But at the same time, you're sacrificing the maximum amount of mana you can channel at one time into a power. So we'll build we'll build a Sorkadin sometime soon, so you guys can see how those two toys play together, and it's really fun. But having said all that, since the language here says max rank of power gained as a fighter, and we're taking this all the way up to 20th level, starting at 17th level, it would be every time you use Second Wind, you get 5 mana back. And at this level, you only have, like, say, 17 mana. You can use this at any time during the encounter, adventuring between short rests, and you pop another 10. If you're taking 2 short rests per day, like wizards think you should be doing, then you end up with 30 mana, not 20. If you aren't taking any short rests at all, you at least get this 5-point scoop anytime you want during the day until you take your long rest and get it all back, right? But that's not all. There are more means for us to gain power. Empowered Strikes. Ooh, first 20 minutes down. Good luck to us on this. Channel Vitality. We already did that one. Empowered Strikes. So beginning at 7th level, when you take the attack action and succeed with an attack roll, you can forgo any number of remaining attacks during your action to gain an equal number of temporary mana that you can burn immediately to channel a strike power you know. For example, an 11th level fighter has 3 attacks. If the first attack succeeds, you can choose to forego the 2 remaining attacks, channeling 2 temporary mana into a strike power that you know, or you could forego 1 attack to channel 1 strike and then have 1 attack left over at the end of it. The mana in your pool can be combined with that. It's basically free mana that you get. So that temporary mana is free mana that you can use right now for a strike. And if you don't, If you don't temporary mana, choose these strikes up to your channel limit. For a strike, you can choose to forgo one of the attacks, channeling 2 temporary mana into strike powers, or you can forgo one attack to channel a strike with 1 temporary mana, and then make 1 additional attack. Mana in your pool can be combined with the temporary mana to channel these strike powers up to your max channel limit. Any temporary mana not used during the attack is lost. There, I just needed to add that little touch of language. It is so temporary, it's just here for that hit. So you're abandoning additional attack, additional opportunities to hit in exchange for being able to spike your damage. And we've done a lot of builds. We've done a lot of time looking at how strikes work. So you can check back the past 20 some odd episodes to see how strikes layer in for damage. But they're basically just like a Paladin's Smite. You hit something, you then decide to spend mana, and you can add damage plus a number of cool effects, which we'll get into once we get past the build. We'll look into the actual kit of powers that we end up learning, which are down here. So, empowered strikes, right? So you can either make a lot of attacks, or once you hit, you can then forego extra attacks to get free mana to automatically use strikes, which we'll look at how they get used. At 10th level, there's Power Surge. So when you use an action surge, you also gain 3 points of temporary mana until the end of your turn. The amount of temporary mana gained this way increases to 5 points at 20th level. At 10th level, you can, as a fighter, channel up to 3rd rank powers. So when you use action surge, you get a whole extra action that you could spend on the attack action to get, say, at the next level, 11th level, you have 3 attacks. So you could use your action surge to get 3 free points of mana. So you make an attack, you can then use those 3 points of mana to max out 3 mana into a strike, and then you've got 2 more attacks left that you could then spend one of those attacks. If you hit, you can then spend the other attack to gain mana to get an extra free strike. So that is a way that you have almost infinite mana to be able to channel strikes and effects of those strikes. So you can always, as long as you can hit, you can always be dealing conditions onto your targets. So it has nearly infinite spammable condition modifiers that you can place on enemies if you're willing to forego numbers of attacks. So it's control over DPS. It's basically how that works. Okay, attack maneuver. At 15th level, when you take the attack action, you can forego any number of attacks to channel maneuvers instead. And if you've been tracking with us, you know that the difference between a strike and a maneuver is that a maneuver is an action or a bonus action. It's basically a single target or an area of effect spell that you can channel. You spend mana, you channel the effect, you target the person or the location, and the power pops. There you go. Like Entangle is a druid spell. You spend 2 points of mana, you cast Entanglement, and it hits that whole area of effect with a bunch of thorny roots, and anything that's inside of that area has to make a saving throw, right? So you can cast that as a standard action. If that were a martial power, you would also be able to cast that as a bonus action. So you have action and a bonus action. You can channel the same power twice in one round that way, but with this ability, the attack maneuvers, at 15th level, you have 3 attacks. You could channel, maneuver, channel, maneuver, channel, maneuver, and then bonus action, channel, maneuver. You can channel 4 maneuvers during one turn. And if you were to use Power Surge and gain 3 mana or 5 mana at 20th level, you would be able to do like 1, 2, 3 first rank powers, or 2 first rank powers, another rank power. You can layer them like that. And then at 18th level, Overpowering Strikes. I like this one. Overpowering Strike. So at 18th level, locked mana doesn't reduce the max rank of strike powers you can channel. So if you've been playing on this channel for a long time with us, you know that sustained powers are concentration effects. Up to 5 mana at 17th level, you can channel or sustain up to 5 levels or ranks worth of concentration effects. If you lock them, you no longer have to maintain concentration, and they do not end. until you take a long rest or choose to let them go. But while they're locked, it reduces the amount of mana you can use overall. So if you have 5 ranks of power and you lock 5 ranks with sustained powers, then your max rank drops to 0, and you can no longer use any mana to channel powers. So, but the fighter ignores that rule when you're channeling strikes. You can't channel any exploits, you can't channel any maneuvers, you can't channel any reactions, but you can still channel strikes. So you can lock 5 ranks worth of buff effects, like haste, for instance, is a 3rd rank power. You could lock haste, so you're in perpetual haste. But if you had 5th rank power and you lock 3 of them, you're now limited to only 2nd or 1st rank powers. That's it. But if it's a strike, you can still do all 5, because locking channels doesn't prevent you from using strikes. That's what you're trying to express there. Hopefully I haven't reiterated that enough to bore you. But it's actually really freaking exciting. So I want to drift down and let's take a look at the at powers themselves that exist and what we've chosen for this character. Again, every level you can change all of your powers. So all you gotta do is just choose a level that you want to be at, and then you just kit out what powers you have. You don't have to explain how you got there. If you wanted to, at 18th level, you could have 15 extra feats and not use your mana for literally anything. Or you could learn 1 strike power that costs 1 mana and then have 14 feats open. You can't gain ASI with them. They're actual feats. But they're all the feats that you know: Sentinel, Great Weapon Master, Piercer, all that good shit. Cooking, you can just kit them all out. So you can just build like an ultra feat fighter if that's how you want to do. Just have 1 power, like precise attack. So you can attack with advantage. You blow a point of mana, you can attack with advantage. You can do that. So drifting our way down into the actual list of powers, we will look at what your character is capable of doing. So what we're going to first do is we got about 140 powers in here, plus all the feats and the damage and the damage type modifiers that you can learn. So we're going to focus our attention on 3 things specifically in the kit, because of how overpowering strikes work. Powerful strikes. Because of how that ability works. I think that's what it's called. Is that what it's called? Powerful strikes? Overpowering strikes. Thank you. Overpowering strikes. Right. So the way that overpowering strikes works, we know that you can lock up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sustained powers, and that still leaves 5 mana open for you to be able to channel 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 5 strikes together. You can stack effects on different strikes, just like you can stack effects on sustained powers, as long as you have the ability to channel them all together. So we're going to start looking at sustained powers first, what that's going to do for your character, and then we'll see what you can still, since you won't be able to have access to exploits, maneuvers, and reactions, we'll focus on what kind of strikes you might want to take and what kind of a battlefield control character you can create as a result of this. So, dipping down into the sustained powers, the one thing I want to mention before we look at the sustained powers specifically is one of the meta power feats that we created for this document, which is called Efficient Power. It requires you to be a 5th level plus in a channeling class feature, and so it's repeatable. It affects 1 power each. So you choose a power that you've learned that's 2nd rank or higher. So it costs 2 mana to channel a 2nd rank power, 3 mana to channel a 3rd rank power, etc. 1st rank power only requires 1 mana, right? So select a 2nd rank or higher power that you know. You can then reduce its rank by 1. So a 2nd rank power, even though you can't learn it until 5th level, if you also take Efficient Power as a feat, which you can learn as a power or a normal feat if you so choose, it becomes a 2nd rank becomes 1st rank. So you'd only have to spend 1 mana on it, and it only counts towards 1 rank of power that you're channeling. So you could take, say, 5 2nd rank sustained powers and use 5 feats to drop all 5 of those 2nd rank powers to now be 1st rank powers, and you could sustain all 5 of them as sustained powers and then lock all of them so you don't have to concentrate on them anymore, and you would still be able to perform strikes. Or, alternatively, you could take 5 strike powers and then use efficient power for each of them and basically have 5 second rank powers, 5 second rank strikes that you could channel together as one Nova Strike for only 5 mana. You could go either way. So with this build, we kind of mixed it. We took, for strikes, we took 2 first rank strikes and we learned 3 second rank strikes, and then we made those 3 second rank strikes more efficient so that they were dropped to only 1 mana each. So this is going to allow us to use a Thundering Strike, a Disarming Strike, a Life-Stealing Strike, a Provoking Strike, and a Restraining Strike all at the same time in one hit for the cost of 5 mana. Similarly, Sustained Powers, I have 3 first rank powers that we learned and 2 second rank powers, and those 2 second rank powers are reduced with efficient power down to first rank. So you can have Opportunist, Auto Attunement, Power Shield, Inspired Skill, and Rogue's Stance, all sustained and locked at the same time. So all of these powers basically become permanent features of yours unless you are incapacitated, in which case they are dismissed and you lose them. If you choose to let them go, if you start a long rest, not complete, but start a long rest, the act of resting in a long rest relaxes you and releases the power. That's how it works. They can also be dispelled, but they can't be countered. So you want to watch out for that, but that's okay, because you have to have weaknesses in the game, and you need to have people there to support you. You don't want to be your own one-man band. That's not the point of the game. This just lets you do a lot more and be more reliable to help your team. So let's take the opportunity to look at what each one of these things do, and they are freaking sweet. Let's see. We are going to look at second rank. Let's look at the first rank powers first and build up the cool shit. So let's look at our sustained powers. First rank sustained power we have is Inspired Skill. Let's make these alphabetical for the lulz. Here, and Power Shield, and I guess I'll publish these. Damn it, I just lost it. Inspired Skill, Rogue Stance, there, and then we'll take Auto Attunement and Opportunist. Okay, great. So get out of here. Okay, great. Let's look at them in the order in which they arrive alphabetically. Inspired Skill. So while sustaining this power, you gain proficiency in a skill or tool of your choice. You can channel this power more than once simultaneously, so I could channel it 5 times and pick up 5 skills or tools if I wanted to, or I could just have it as one. Choosing a different skill or tool each time I channel it, I can pick up another one. I took Inspired Skill simply because if we're going to lock it, we could dismiss it and replace it. So if we wanted to be a trapsmith, we could have Thieves' Tools on us, and I could inspire myself to know how to use Thieves' Tools. Or if I needed to be stealthy with my team, I could swap that out, burn a point of mana, lock it, and now I know how to be stealthy. I now have stealth checks, right? So I could do that. It's just useful utility. So like if I go to a party, I can pick up Bluff, and then I can switch it out on the fly for Diplomacy, Persuasion, or Intimidation, or Insight. I can swap it out on a round-by-round basis when I'm communicating with people, like say at this cocktail party. And if I get into a conversation with somebody, I could then spontaneously swap in. I could swap in, say, history. And now my mind is capable of recalling all those little bits of information that I've accumulated over my life and be able to pull them together into coherent thoughts. And it's like, oh yeah, you're that Duke of Wellington. That's right. You guys like gained that property in the War of France in like 1342. You could like spit that out, and then you could swap your power over to now go after Persuasion or Bluff, and deceive or whatever it is that you want to do, and then continue that conversation with him, maybe giving yourself an advantage because you were able to pop off that little tidbit of fact from a martial perspective, knowing that guy's history, and maybe now he wants to talk shop with you about, what kind of horse do you like to ride into battle and crap like that. It's a fun little utility power you can just pick up. Power Shield. So what does Power Shield do? So Power Shield, You create a defensive field of power that can be wielded as a shield that you are proficient with. The shield hovers in your space to protect you, leaving your hands free, so I can wield a two-handed weapon, right? The bonus to your armor class gained from the shield is equal to your proficiency bonus, and you can benefit from only one shield at a time. So what's your proficiency bonus at first level? It's 2. What's the shield's armor class bonus? It's 2. So as you gain ranks and power, so too does your shield become more powerful. So at 18th level, I reckon this guy probably has like maybe like half plate, which is medium armor. Gives him armor class, what, 16? And then you got your +2 maximum bonus. We have a dexterity of 14 in this build, which caps out our dexterity bonus in medium armor, right? So that would give us a base 18. And then we have the power shield that's active. We lock it, and that's going to give us at 17th or and above. That's going to give us a +6 bonus to our armor class from that shield, and it leaves our hands free. So that gives us a default half plate plus dexterity plus this. That's a default armor class of 24. If the half plate is a +3 bonus because you're 4th rank, we're playing 4th tier, like say at 18th or 19th, 20th level, it's going to be a +3 bonus probably as a good piece of magic gear. That's realistically going to put you at an armor class of 27, which is pretty good. It's a pretty good armor class. It's not the best in the world out there, but I could pick up different fighting styles and stuff if I wanted to boost my armor class further, and I can still get boosted by my friends. So, take a drink of water, continue the effort. Good base armor class for relatively little gear. If I needed to, I could take power armor, which is your armor class is 11 plus your dexterity modifier plus your proficiency bonus. So at 17th plus level, like a rogue, for instance, would be able to have this. And it's basically mage armor. So it's just a base armor class. It doesn't have any weight to it, so it doesn't screw around with your stealth or your dexterity or anything like that. And like say for just a default rogue with an 18, say an 18 dexterity, let's say give him 20 dexterity. It's going to be 5, 16. It's going to be a base armor class of 22 for the rogue. That's not horrible for a rogue at all. But we can wear plate, so that's what we're going to do, and just take power shield instead. Because like you could stack on, that'd be what, a 22, and then you could stack on power shield on top of it, and you could take it up to a 28. So you could have a rogue if you locked both of these powers. Your rogue could have a armor class any character. Your barbarian could be running around like Conan with just with like a loincloth and a lot of oil, and his armor class is going to be whatever his dex mod is. Like say it's 14, that's not awesome. 13, it'd be 13, 19, and then the power shield would take it up to armor class 25. That's pretty respectable for a barbarian. So cheers. So that's power shield, and then the third sustained power of first rank we know is Rogue Stance. So Rogue Stance allows you to use a bonus action to dash, dodge, and disengage. And if you set that permanent, then you basically have cunning action as a rogue permanently. It costs you a rank of power, costs you a mana to do it, but there it is. So that's a good basic kit. But then on top of that, we have Auto Attunement and Opportunist. Auto Attunement's a sleeper. At 18th level, you probably have abundant gear that's going to require attunement, but it takes an hour to attune the stuff. So you can't really benefit from all that stuff. But Auto Attunement allows you to, while sustaining its power, you are attuned to any magic item you can hold in one hand, even if you don't normally qualify to do so. So your fighter could grab a Staff of Power, and whatever spells are inside that Staff of Power, you could point, click, fire, death. Ideally, what you do is you gain a lot of attuning gear that you just keep in sheaths on you, like a holy weapon, a firebrand, all sorts of gear, just gear that requires attunement. And we have a shitload of gear down below that requires attunement to work really well. So if you're sustaining this power and then you reduce it by 1, so it only costs 1 mana to lock down this auto attunement. So any number of weapons or items that you have that require attunement, as soon as you pick it up, you qualify to use it and you can use it immediately. That is really, really powerful. Super worth taking, and it allows your DM to really be able to throw in gear or make gear part of your character's benefit. A martial character can benefit from this stuff, so like a wizard can't do that. A wizard has to wait an hour to attune to an item, and you can just do it just by picking it up. There, he's just automatically attuned to it. It's like, give me that. Zap, zap. Okay, here, you can have it back. There you go. Fun stuff. And then the other power that you can learn is Opportunist, which is really the core of a battlefield control build, a defender. Which is, while this power is sustained, when you take the attack action, you can forgo any number of the attacks during your turn to gain an equal number of additional reactions that are limited to 1 per turn, including your own, that you can use to make opportunity attacks before your next turn. So if you just have, like at 11th level, if you have 3 attacks, you can just make your 3 attacks. But if you've got a crowd of enemies that you think are going to try to get to your back line, you can have, while you have Opportunist active, at any time you use an action, you could pop Opportunist and convert any number of your attacks into additional opportunity attacks, which you could also use to channel powers when you hit. So you could still be striking creatures on their turn. So let's look at, so all 5 of these things, we assume that we're going to lock them. Or you lock 4 of them and you leave Inspired Skill open so that, it doesn't really matter. You can just swap it in and out. But if you leave that 1 point of mana unlocked for the Inspired Skill, you can do things like Exploit, Precise Attack. Like, as long as it's not locked, it works just like normal concentration. Like a wizard can concentrate on Haste, a 3rd level spell, and still throw Fireball or Meteor Swarm or whatever. That concentration doesn't prevent you from being able to cast other instant spells. They're just limited on what kind of sustained powers they can sustain at a time. And for full casters, spell casters, it's only 1 at a time. With this power system, you can stack up as many as you've got levels to do so. So, improvement. But it doesn't stack with spell casting. So you have that divide. So let's see. Let's look at the powers that the strikes that we have. So you can choose as many, or you can choose 1 or up to all 5 of these at a time. Once you hit 17th level, you have access to 5 ranks of power. And if you're reducing the second rank powers down to only 1 mana, that means you can use all 5 of these strikes at the same time, which is a bit, it's a bit much. I will give you that. But let's see how it all plays out. Let's see how things work together, right? So let's put these in alphabetical order, because that seems to be working out okay for us. Cool. All right, so first rank, I hit you with an attack. I've got my pole arm, and I've got my sentinel feature, and I've got Great Weapon Master, and I've got Great Weapon Fighting, right? So I'm using my Pam, and I've got a 10-foot reach around me, and I've got Opportunist active, so I'm choosing to give up 3 attacks. I now have 3 opportunity attacks that I can use with Sentinel. So anything that gets within 10 feet of me is going to get hard stopped, right? So let's go to my handy dandy Photoshop that I have opened up today, because I have a grid. We're going to play with grids here, folks. So we're going to... Here's our character, right? Hi. That's our guy. And then we're going to create enemies, right? So we got an enemy here. We got an enemy here. We got an enemy here. And let's say our back line is back here, right? Spread out a bit. Well, I've got a 10-foot reach with Pam, right? Let's say we're in a tunnel, right? That goes like, let's get rid of it. Oh my god. This is so unscripted, can you tell? So we got our back line here, and let's say that the tunnel is that wide. There. So this is how wide our tunnel is, and we've got 3 enemies here. And here's our zone of control. So basically, in this 25-foot wide passage, using Pam and Sentinel, I've got full control over this space. So if this dude steps into this space, I get to hit him with an opportunity attack, use Sentinel, he stops immediately. If I hit him, I can then channel, channel strikes. So let's look at our stack of strikes. First one is Disarming Strike. Disarming Strike. Your weapon deals extra damage equal to 1 power die per mana burned. and the target must make a strength save. So what is a power die? We know that a power die from all the previous sessions, including today again, a power die starts at a D6 and eventually builds into a D10. So if we're talking 18th plus level, it's a D10. So, and again, we've decided to channel 5 mana during the strike using all these different strike powers. It's a total of 5 mana that we spent. So your weapon deals extra damage equal to 1 power die per mana burned. And the target, so that's going to be 5 mana that we burn. That's going to be 5 power die. There's going to be an additional 5d10 damage on top of whatever effects it has. If I use, like, say, Disarming Strike and Corroding Strike, they both say deal extra damage equal to 1 power die. That doesn't stack, so it wouldn't be like Corroding Strike and Disarming Strike equals 10 power dice. It's you have a total of 5 mana spent during the strike. It's 5 dice of damage plus whatever effects it is that each of those powers use that you add in. So Corroding Strike, Disarming Strike only costs 1, so Disarming Strike, there you go. Make a strength saving throw against your channeling DC, which we know is 8 plus prof modifier plus your strength bonus, right? So it's 8, 14, and say a 20 strength is going to put it at 19, so DC 19. So make a strength saving throw versus, say, DC 19, and adding the result of the highest power die rolled, or the target drops the item. So you're rolling a D10. So when you roll your 5d10 damage dice, whichever of those dice is the highest result, you add that to your DC 19. So like, say you roll a 10, like say you roll 3 or 4 10s, you're going to do 30, 40 some odd damage, plus you've got a D10 there. It's the top die that you rolled. You add that to your DC. That's now a DC 29 strength check. If you're rolling up, like, say, on a wizard holding, like, a staff of Orcus or something like that, and you hit him with this, he's going to have to make a DC, potentially a DC anywhere from a DC 20 to 30. DC 20 to 29 to hold on to that weapon. But assuming that he's going to fail that strength saving throw, the target drops 1 item of your choice that it's holding, and that object lands at a location you choose within 10 feet of the target per mana burned, channeling this power. So since I'm channeling 5 mana, I could make that Staff of Orcus land anywhere within 50 feet of this dude. So naturally, when I throw it, it's going to land over here next to my wizard. So he can pick it up and start using it. Or since I have auto attunement, what I could do is I could have it disarm and land next to me instead, right here. So I can use an object interaction and pick up that staff, automatically know how to use it, even though I wouldn't normally be able to do that as a fighter, and start using it against him immediately. Oh, days of regret. What a great thing to be able to do. So that's just Disarming Strike with auto attunement and opportunities and opportunists. That's awesome. Then let's look at Thundering Strike. What does Thundering Strike do? Again, we're already doing the extra damage. So going down to Thundering Strike is an added effect. Your weapon can deal thunder damage. So now we had, okay, so up here under Disarming Strike, it said deal an extra damage die. You can deal extra damage equal to the power die, right? But Thundering Strike now allows us to make that damage either weapon damage or thundering damage, Thunder Strike damage if we want. So we can make it thundering damage. And the creature is pushed up to 10 feet away in a direction of your choice for each point of mana burned. So I have 5 mana that I spent on that strike. Not only does this guy drop his weapon back here behind me, but I am about to punt him way the hell back. 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. I can punt him all the way back to here, out of the range of the fight. Now he has to spend all that time coming back. So he has to 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. You just ran out of movement, right? Well, you're just about to enter range again anyway. So if you want to take the dash action in close distance, oh crap, opportunity attack. I now get to punt you again. I can push you 50 feet every time, just like Eldritch Blast. Repelling Blast works the exact same way. Anytime I burn a point of mana, I can punt my target 50 feet. And it doesn't require a saving throw, just like Eldritch Blast doesn't allow a saving throw. This too punts creatures with just impunity. There are powers in here, though, that make you unable to be moved. So you could kit out like brute NPCs, like brute creatures that are rooted, that you can't move them unless they want to be moved. So you have that option to counteract, but you're eating up creature power budget to be able to do that. So there's options, and then there's counter options, and then there's counter plays, and then there's defenses against the counter plays. But that's Thundering Strike, so you get to make him drop his weapon, and then you push him all the way out of the fight. Let's see, what's the next power that we know in here? Those are our 2 first rank. Now each of these second rank powers have been reduced with the feat that we learned, the efficient power. It drops all of these down to 1 cost, so I can channel all these things together at the same time for 5 mana if I wanted. So the next thing that's up is life stealing, straight out of Magic the Gathering. We approach it interesting. It's not a heal. It's interesting. So your weapon damage increases by 1 power die per mana burn. We already know that's 5d10 at this level. In addition, you gain a number of temporary hit points equal to the result of the power dice rolled. So if I rolled 50 on my d10 die, on my 5d10 dice, I gain 50 temporary damage, or 50 temporary hit points. Any temporary hit points that remain when you start a short or long rest are lost. Every time I use this power, it's temporary hit points. So every time I use life stealing this way, I re-roll the dice, and if it's higher than the amount of temporary hit points I have currently, it now replaces that amount. So if I roll crappy, it's still going to do damage, and it's going to do crappy damage. But it wouldn't replace, it might not refresh the temporary hit points, but if I roll really well, it does. So you can gain a really thick battery of hit points to protect you when you jump into a nest of creatures and start wading your way through them. By using lifesteal, you continue to you can re-armor that buff and keep yourself going. And then Provoking Strike, this is awesome. Provoking Strike, your weapon. So to go back, when we hit this guy, you drop his weapon, we punted him 50 feet, and you can do these things in any order that you want. Like I could punt him 50 feet and then make him drop his weapon. Like if this was an ally, I could pump him 50 feet and then have him drop his weapon here, so that my ally here could pick up that weapon. If that's the situation that we're looking at. I can punt him, then drop. I can drop and then punt. I can lifesteal. For any of these things can be done in any order. So keep that in mind. So next is Provoking Strike. This is where a lot of battlefield control comes from. Your weapon can deal psychic damage. So now after using Thundering Strike, we could choose to do thunder damage, or we could choose to do psychic damage. And again, you add 1 power die, so that's going to be a max of 5d10 damage. The creature can only attack you until it loses line of sight of you, or you are incapacitated. The creature can end this effect early by succeeding a Wisdom saving throw at the end of each of its turns, which again is going to be a DC 19. And there are other exploits that we could potentially pick up with that open point of mana to like curse them so that they have disadvantage on that die roll if you wanted. And if you're using this like against a brute, like a meat shield for instance, that it's going to be locked in on attacking you. And if you're using life stealing, you're nullifying almost all the damage that it's doing. So basically you just become a sponge that soaks the damage, forcing it to attack you instead of your allies. You have effectively become an MMORPG debuff tank, an actual tank. And then, how does that work? Creatures that are immune to charm. They aren't immune to this. They roll with this. They get to roll their saving throw with advantage. So if you pick up the curse exploit, you could nullify that advantage and make it a straight die roll. But one of the big pitfalls to provocation stuff is that there's that language about charming and like being immune to mind affecting stuff, bloody blah. You don't have to. You don't have to follow that rule. This is powerful. You can instead still allow them to gain that advantage off of it, but they are not immune to the effect, which is perfect for debuffing. So that's Provoking Strike. So you hit the guy, he drops his weapon, you punt him 30 feet. He's now pissed off, and the only person he can attack is you, but you're like this far away. So if he doesn't have if he has range attacks, he can take shots at you and you can absorb them. But if he only has melee attacks, he is now forced, if he wants to make an attack, he has to make it against you, which requires him to close that 50 feet of distance, which is probably going to eat his entire round. And it's going to let you hit him with an opportunity attack to punt him again. So, and then what is the last thing that we have? Restraining Strike. So Restraining Strike, your damage increases by 1 power die per mana burn. It's just generic damage, so we still have the option between Thunder, Weapon, and Psychic damage from the array that we've already used in our Strike. The creature... the creature is restrained until it succeeds a strength saving throw at the end of each of its turns. So, you hit the creature, it drops its weapon, you gain a shield, a life steal shield, you punt it 50 feet, it's now been provoked, so all it wants to do is attack you, but it's restrained, so it's rooted in place. So it has to overcome a strength saving throw against your DC. At this level, it would be anywhere from 19 or possibly 29, depending on what powers you're using to channel this. They're rooted in place. They have to get past the restrain, and once they get past the restrain, they still want to attack only you because of the provoking strike. So that means that if they can break free of the root, they are now going to again attempt to charge you, which draws into the attack of opportunity, which punts them back out of the line. So you've got this recurring bounce effect, and if you're using Opportunist, you can swap out all of your attacks and just wait for them to come. And here they come, and you've got these 3 targets, and it's expensive to hit all 5 of these things at the same time. That's pricey. It's 5 mana, and you only normally have 20 mana, right? But once you get this thing set up, like once you hit this guy, you can hit this guy with provoking attack, and this guy with provoking attack, and this guy with provoking attack, because you can do the 3 attacks per round. The 3 opportunity attacks using Opportunists, you can set up all 3 of those. And if you hit all 3 of them, all they're going to want to do is attack you. And then you can layer on Lifesteal for 1 mana. And you can, instead of using your opportunity attacks, you could just have, if this guy way back here is rooted and you don't have to worry about him for a round, then when you use Opportunist, you only have to devote 2 of your 3 attacks to opportunity attacks to keep these guys from getting past you to your back line. And that's going to give you 1 attack that you can use for yourself that you could then use to channel Lifesteal or Provoking if you need to refresh it, or Thundering Strike if you need to punt somebody out of the field. So for very little mana, you can punt, and if you have Action Surge, you get 3 free mana. So you could provoke, if this guy comes in range, you could provoke him, push him back, Thundering Strike, and then restrain him. So these 2 guys are now locked together, and that didn't cost you anything to use Action Surge. And now you've got this guy standing alone. So now that you can then use the rest of your Action Surge to do a normal attack, you make 1 attack, say you hit, you now have 2 free mana that you can use, that you could then use to Thundering Strike to punt this guy away and restrain him. Now all 3 of those guys back here are locked in position until they can succeed saving throws to break free of the restraining effect. There you go. That's how that shit works. All those things work together. That is what we have called the Provoking Punter build. So there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do. We didn't have room for Shocking Strike because of the 5 mana limit. We could have had Shocking Strike in there, which removes the ability to do reactions. And if I were to do that, you could use, I could say if these were all casters back here, that if your backline here are casters and they want to lob spells at these dudes, and you could get into position here just by charging in. You could use your rogue stance to get the free dash. So you can dash in as a bonus action, use your normal movement to get into position here. You could use your 3 attacks per round to hit all 3 of these guys. If you had Shocking Strike, you could hit, and all 3 of them lose their ability to use reactions until the beginning of their next turn. So your team back here would be able to safely cast spells without having anything be countered. So you have there's a lot of battlefield control options that exist inside of the game as written. But when you combine them with the different things to control the movement, their position, forcing things to disarm, and then be able to pick them up and use them right away with auto attunement. All these things can work together. But this is basically like, this is how this character is kitted out right now. If like this is an 18th level build, at 19th level, if I'm like, well, I'm not really using Disarming Strike a lot, I want to refund that and say swap it out with Shocking Strike. I can. Or I can swap out the entire kit and build something differently if I want to, because you have all that flexibility. So, hey Tyler, it's good to see you, my dude. No, man, it's just, nobody owes me nothing. I'm just glad you're hanging out, and I appreciate you helping me log in some hours. I got to get to that 4,000 per year mark for me to get monetized. So that goes a long way to help me out. So Talon Stream, yeah, he's at the he's on the digital roster for the WotC content creator looky-loo thing. It was it was worth looking at. The information is mild. There wasn't a lot of information about like content creators like myself and Taryn. Like where do we lie inside of the legalese stuff. The spokesperson didn't know how the DMsGuild worked, which was disconcerting. So there's some miscommunication there that leaves a lot of us feeling a little concerned about how seriously are they taking third-party content production moving forward. So we may all end up in, the Creative Commons eventually anyway, which is great because I can do all this again and just word it differently. The cool thing about publishing content is that you can't copyright ideas. You can only copyright how to express those ideas. So while I get to play on the DMsGuild, I'm going to keep playing on the DMsGuild as long as I keep doing Wizards of the Coast stuff. As soon as they kill off the DMsGuild or like make it impossible for third-party content producers to work with them and their IPs, I can just shift to Creative Commons and keep just doing my own thing there. And if it's like Wizards of the Coast, like if it's like Magic of the Gathering stuff, then I just shift gears and start putting on Patreon instead. And I offer all my stuff for free anyway, and people keep buying the books anyway, probably because they appreciate being able to use all my work without actually having to pay for it. So they get to, they see if they like it, and if they do, a lot of times they end up buying it anyway. So that's really been working out. I think it works out. I think that method works out well if you really, really make sure you cover your bases and build something good. If you're just slapdashing shit and say, hey, here's this thing for free, you're probably not going to make any money because people are like, this is slapdash. The more quality you put into it, and the more you make it available to other people, the more basically good karma you get back in return. So, but yeah, it was a cool channel. It's neat that Wizards is doing this thing. It's an effort on their part to participate with the audience and not be so on high. I think they got knocked down a little bit, and they're realizing they need to interact with us instead of remaining aloof. There's no power there. The only power you gain is through interaction and people investing into you. And I think Wizards is starting to realize that they've underinvested in that aspect of their business. So I'm really hoping that the slice of crow that they've had to eat, or humble pie rather, is allowing them to approach the community a little bit more in a more friendly manner. So it's really cool. It's a great opportunity to see growth. But this is the build. This is our build for the day. And I've just hit my hour mark. It's 2 o'clock. I actually do need to bail. I'm going to be back probably in 5 hours tonight to work on Spelljammer art or maybe some layout. Not sure what. So anyone that's new here, Tyler, sorry to jump out of here with you. Harnetico, thanks for showing up. I'm going to be back next week. And maybe we'll build a Sorkadin. We'll see how a Sorkadin can play out when you mix martial powers with spellcasting. Just to see how it plays. I think we'll build. Let's build a Boros Reckoner out of a paladin and a sorcerer, both using white and red mana from the Boros Legion in Ravnica. I think that'd be super fun. So that's what I'm planning on doing for now. But anybody that's looking at this playtest content, if you come up with a build, you can drop it in the comments down below, or you can hit me on Discord if you know where I'm at, or ping me on Twitter at Phil Kearney. If you want to build out a power kit for yourself, I can take a look at what you built and give you my thoughts about it. See how fun it is, and if it's a really solid build. Maybe we'll drop it in the book, give you credits for it as part of the playtesting team. And I'm going to need to build artwork for these sort of things. So if you give me a cool build and you show up for the stream, maybe we can spend the session talking about your build and making some character art around it. So that's what our future is going to be. I'm really looking forward to it. So, yeah, man. Thanks a lot for being here. Hoping to catch you guys later on tonight. Thanks a lot. And I am out.